Hello and welcome. This is Will Dean, Forest Author. Today I want to talk to you about how there are no closed doors in publishing. Welcome back. It is great to see you. I hope you're well. I hope you are managing. I'm here in the forest. I've been here now for a long time. 8 years full-time living off-grid in the woods. And this is my life. And you are very welcome to share a little part of it. This is my cabin. Desk over there. A bunch of books. And an axe. Over there, bar, there's a fridge under there where I keep some drinks, and there's a stereo, and there's some like proper serious drinks. And then in there is a fire, wood burning stove that keeps this place from freezing. These are my gloves that I use. Actually, I don't use them for the fire. I use them when I cook on a bonfire. I like cooking on a Dutch oven or cooking a steak over a bonfire. I do that quite a lot this time of year in the spring. And those gloves are great. I can just literally put my hand in the fire to get the meat out, which is good. But this is not what I'm talking about today. I'm talking today about how there are no closed doors in any creative pursuit, but I only really know about writing and publishing. And what I mean by closed doors is a lot of writers start writing, start submitting, and then they feel like because their book was rejected by every agent in the world, that's kind of a closed door now. You know, they're not going to become a published author. Or they think that because they've self-published 8 books, none of which have sold particularly well, that's a closed door to traditional publishing and they're not going to get picked up. It's not true. Like, all an agent or an editor cares about is your latest book. To some extent, they'll look at your career and things you've won and courses you've done. The most important thing is the book you've just written, the book that you've sent to that agent or that editor. That is the crucial thing. So I think if you've had 10 failed novels, 10 novels which haven't been critically received very well and that haven't sold well, but then you write an incredible book, an agent or an editor is going to pick that up because they love that book. As long as you're not a nightmare to work with, they're going to pick that book up. So do not ever feel that because you've had a rocky history, the industry is closed to you. It does not work that way at all. And there are enough examples of writers who have struggled with books in certain genres that haven't done well, and then suddenly they get their breakout novel. You know, book 8, book 12, book 6. It's all about the next book. So always have hope. It's easy to become jaded and feel like it's never going to happen, but it will happen. You just need to find your own voice and to write that fantastic book. Within the book community, there is a phenomenon known as bad track, and this is about bad sales track. So if you've not been lucky and you've had a book or 2 published or more, and the sales have not been good, there's a thing that some authors are terrified of, which is bad track, which basically means that you've got a bad track record in terms of your sales data. And whilst that is true in terms of the way that some retailers will look at your books and will judge your next order size, it doesn't mean the end of your career. I think I would be quite happy if no author ever heard the phrase bad track again, because it's all about the next book. It really is. And maybe because of bad track, your next book, which is fabulous, does not get a huge advance. Fine. Maybe because of bad track, your next book doesn't get signed by the imprint you want, but by a different imprint, fine. Maybe because of bad track, your book does not get into the bookshops that you wanted, but it gets into some other bookshops. At least it's your stepping stone then, you know, and you can write another fantastic book and another fantastic book, and your trajectory of your career will go up. And I've said this before, that author careers, any creative career, is a roller coaster. It's got its peaks and troughs. No author career does this. Some of them might look like they do, but they don't really. Behind the scenes, they're quite rocky. And it's all about riding that wave. You know, when you're in a trough, you need to get up to the peak. And when you're up in a peak, don't get too big for your boots, because there's going to be another trough. That's just the way it is. And I think if you focus on your process, focus on writing the books, focus on reading brilliant books, you know, if that's your focus, rather than data and sales figures, then you're always going to improve. And that's going to give you the best chance of getting great track and getting in all the bookshops and winning prizes and being reviewed in newspapers and that kind of thing. There are published authors out there who had agents that the relationship didn't work for them, and they moved later on. So they might have thought that their career was done, and then they moved agent and their career was reinvigorated. So there are lots of things you can do proactively as an author to try and spark life into your career if you feel like it's kind of slowing down. But then you get that challenge in any creative enterprise or in any job or in any part of life, really. If you are in a bit of a trough, the challenge is confidence, having the confidence to focus and the resilience to keep pushing, and to, for example, as an author, if you've written 2 books that haven't been sold, no editors pick them up, that's a knock to your confidence. And I totally get that. But you kind of have to trick yourself, I think, into sitting down and writing the next book. Because what's the alternative? You give up? No, don't give up. You know, I want to read your next book. Other people want to read your next book. So if you're still enjoying the process, if you still want to be a writer, if you still are a writer, then try not to focus on statistics, on data, on bad track, on things like that. Just focus on the next book. It's always the next book that gets you out of trouble, or it's always the next book that is going to put your career back on track. It's always the next book. The answer is always the next book, whether it takes you a year to write that next book or it takes you 10 years to write that next book. It's always about, and I don't know why I have this, but it's always about kind of momentum. You know, try and keep moving forwards at whatever pace. Maybe it's not a fast pace. Maybe your career moves really slowly, but keep it moving forwards. Keep learning. Keep being a student of whatever you're trying to do, and you will get there. When I talked before about peaks and troughs in a career, in a writer's career, a typical, let me give you an example of a writer that I'm just making up out of my head. It's not based on anyone. Traditional deal, 2-book deal. The first book does amazingly well, big debut. The second book is trashed in the newspapers. Doesn't get picked up for a second book deal. Decides to self-publish. Self-publishes 3 books, then changes genre, moves to a different genre, gets a new agent on the back of a self-published book in a different genre that does really well, then gets a book deal for that genre, then wins a prize and gets a big book deal for 3 books in that genre. You know, careers work like that. It's not all about just, and by the way, I'm not saying that self-published is worse than traditionally published. It's totally just different. But for a lot of traditionally published authors, they would rather be traditionally published than self-published. Some self-published authors make a lot more money than traditionally published authors, and they prefer that route. So it's apples and oranges. But if you feel like your career is stalling, just make a change. To a large extent, you're in control of it, to try and make a change. And if you have a specific question or query, drop me a note in the comment section, or tweet me, Instagram me, Facebook me, and I'm happy to try and answer as best I can. This has been Will Dean in the forest of Sweden. Hope you're well. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.